we grew up on Star Wars, we grew up on sci-fi, and you're like, when are we going to have C-3PO or something that can understand you, talk to you, and that sort of thing?
You had your aha moment back in 2015, way before anybody else. Became a leader in a space at a time when no one was really talking about AI.
Raised $100+ million pre-AI, pre-pandemic.
Anything you can think of, you can build, right? With vibe coding, you don't even have to be a coder anymore. If you can dream it, you can achieve it, right? And so I think there's like this really cool era now where the ability to communicate like at the speed of human thought is what's going to create innovation. AI is changing the definition of a software engineer, and it's moving that away from being just a coder. But at the end of the day, for me, software engineering was always about problem solving. AI is making that bottom layer of coding a lot easier, but you still have to be an amazing problem solver.
What's like the aha moment you've got now that you're seeing way before everybody else again?
Ooh, this is so fun.
Deon, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you on the pod.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's so good to see you.
Thank you for being on the pod. We're going to jump right in. I do want to talk about Espa and the new company you're building. But first, I want to talk about Forethought. Raised $100+ million pre-AI, pre-pandemic. How did you do it? What led up to you going into starting Forethought?
Absolutely. So I've been interested in AI since high school. I've actually been interested in technology, in computers and coding. So that became my passion when I was pretty young. So I was born and raised in Canada, inner city Toronto. In high school, my family, we moved to Edmonton, Alberta, random middle of nowhere, Canada, but a great city. And there's a few AI labs in Canada. One of them is the Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute, AMI, in Edmonton. So in high school, I saw a little poster for an internship. And so I ended up interning at this AI lab. And that was the first time I learned about
What year is
AI.
this?
It was 2009, 2010.
This is like, okay, so what is AI like in 2009?
I don't even want
You're like,
That
where
you're-
AI
that you're-
labs
that
at
you're-
in
that you're
2009? How
excited
far
about.
I'm
back
going
do we
around
go?
telling people there's no AI labs in New York today. This guy's like, they were in
You're like,
they were in my hometown in
Canada had
2009.
this way before everybody else.
I mean, I'm sure. Like, I didn't know at the time. But back then, a lot of AI was. There were kind of two branches. There was a lot of the like logic-based AI that was like trying to encode rules into AI to teach it to act like a human. And then there was kind of the early inklings of machine learning. So a lot of it was just statistical machine learning, like give a lot of data to a system and see if it can approximate or learn something, whether it's like predicting housing prices or whatever. I worked on two projects, so I did two summer internships, like one in I don't know what Americans call it, like junior year. Like, I don't know what is senior year or whatever.
Some point in high school.
Some point in high school. And the first was a computer vision problem where we were trying to use AI and machine learning to read MRI scans for, if it was like for cancer patients or whatever, to try and predict what was going on. And that was like a joint project with the lab and the nearby hospital, the Cross Cancer Institute, right? So that was my first project. And then the second was trying to teach a robot how to walk in a 3D simulated environment.
I would have loved to
Wow.
see that.
That was I think I still have my poster from that year.
Send us that poster. We'll put it up in the pod.
Oh dang! All right.
That
I'll
would be
find it.
very
I'll
cool.
find it. I got you.
Very cool. So how do you go from that, right? Computer vision and robotics.
Yeah.
What comes next? It sounds like you're already on this great trajectory at that point.
So I learned a lot about AI back then. It's so funny because I was actually an AI skeptic. I'm like, this doesn't feel like AI. It feels like statistics. It feels like math. And I'm like, you always wish for, and we grew up on Star Wars. We grew up on like, the sci-fi, and you're like, when are we going to have C-3PO or something that can understand you, talk to you, and that sort of thing. But that being said, that was the beginning for me of learning about machine learning, and at that time, a technique called reinforcement learning, which is really big now. And that year, so like back in school, I've always been a math and computers guy, but I was like really bad at subjects like history, and basically, or biology, or really anything that required memorization. Like my brain sucks. Like I'm just like half the time I forget everything. My teammates can attest to that. And so like I can understand concepts, but like when it comes to just like trying to remember things, it was hard for me. And so I was like, this AI thing that I'm learning about, can it help me? Can it answer my questions? Can it help me in school? People are talking about like AI personal tutors now. And so that was really like in some ways like my first like entrepreneurial endeavor was like trying to build AI technology that could help me answer I called it my learning tool. It was like answering my quiz questions and stuff like that so that I could study better for history
Oh,
class.
wow. That's great.
And I remember it was like a little command line terminal, like all
Wow.
that. But again, the technology back then sucked. Like it wasn't anything near what, the AI era GPT is doing today, but it was in the same spirit. It was in the same vein. Like now GPT literally can just do that, right? But that kicked off this interest in AI for me. So fast forward, went to school out in University of Waterloo. So other side of Canada, back in kind of East Coast where I grew up. Studied computer science, studied math, and studied AI there. And basically, this concept of AI was always like a side hustle and side project for me. We only had like 2 AI classes, which I took. But at the same time, right around 2014, Coursera started to become a thing. So I would take Chris Manning's online natural language processing course from Stanford, and a few other things. So I was just like always in the know and kind of reading up on it and seeing the technology evolve. Fast forward, move out to Silicon Valley. So I was a software engineer, first an intern at places like Facebook, or now Meta, I guess, Palantir, and then I worked full time at Dropbox and then Pure Storage. And as I was, getting immersed in the Silicon Valley ecosystem of tech, I always had this, little back of my mind entrepreneurial, a lot of the things I had started to work on even back in high school. And so I kept learning about AI and this particular branch of technology around natural language understanding, question answering, and things like that. But this time I was in the workforce. I was working at these big companies. And one of the things I started to realize was the most important questions for these companies come from their customers, right? It wasn't just about the technology they were building, but it was about, it was customer service. It was about the customer experience, and it was about all that.
And how was that going? Was it a bad experience?
Yeah, I mean, like think about it. Every one of us has had a bad experience with a business, whether it's an airline, whether it's with your bank. Like, why is it that when you call somebody, you're put on hold, and that's like the first thing that happens?
Yep.
You
It's
know,
either that or I'm just hitting zero
or you're
6
just
times.
Yeah.
zero,
Just
dial
get to
zero.
a
Talk to
real
agent.
person.
Talk to
Yeah.
agent.
Yeah,
Isn't that crazy
representative.
that we've been asking to talk to an agent for decades
decades.
already?
Yeah.
Like, just give me the agent.
Just give me the person.
Give me
Yeah.
the person.
We're really-
Agent was a person for
Right.
this long, and now it's
And
now it's AI.
now it's
we're like,
AI.
give me the
But really
agent.
it's like
Yeah,
I just want the help and
It's-
I want the
you want your
answer.
problem solved. Right?
Exactly.
At the end of the day, which is interesting is like entrepreneurship is just about solving problems for people. And for me, it started with just solving problems for myself. And then seeing, some of these companies, they would be like, you have like a customer service guarantee and all of this, like all these things going on. And so in 2017, 2018, started to kind of get that entrepreneur bug, so to speak, trying to take some of the problems that I was solving or interested in kind of academically and being like, well, I'm not the only one who needs this. Like, can you start to apply this to other people, to businesses and things like that? So, this was 2017. Started tinkering around again with AI. And at that time, there were actually some groundbreaking papers that came out from Stanford that because I was just like immersed in this stuff, I was like, oh, this is the future. Like it was weird because I actually thought that was like the GPT moment back in the day.
Wow.
Wow.
Stanford had released this question answer data set. It was called Squad, Stanford Question Answer Data Set. And it was the largest data set of like
Is that
Wikipedia.
Fei-Fei?
It might have been. It might have been. I don't remember who the authors were of that paper and that data set, but it was the largest data set of questions, answers of like things from like Wikipedia based questions you can ask. And then people started training neural network models on this concept of question answering. And so I was like, oh, this is sick because, for years I've been thinking about question answering, like for me as a student. And now I'm starting to see, hey, this could be applied to businesses because they have customer questions. And so that was like enough for me to like think, okay, there's actually going to be a market here. There's going to be a technology here. So decided to leave my job at the time. I was working at Pure Storage with my co-founder Sammy, who was at LinkedIn. We got together And we built our first prototype of this little AI that could answer questions. And then we started spending time with businesses and trying to understand where were their most important questions. And it became really clear very quickly that customer service was going to be it. And so then we founded and launched the company Forethought, which became, one of the top AI customer service companies of the now AI generation, which is really exciting. Yeah, we launched in 2018 September. TechCrunch Disrupt. We actually were the winners of Battlefield that year, which was
Let's
super
go.
sick. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And then we were off to the races, and yeah, raised over $115 million, Series D company, scaling, um, and yeah, it's that's the story.
That's
What was
incredible. And like such a fast rise, right? But this was also pre-COVID. This was pre the crazy AI rounds of today, but like became a leader in a space at a time when no one was really talking about AI. I guess how do you think about the AI era today? Right? Like you had your aha moment back in 2015, way before anybody else. What's like the aha moment you've got now that you're seeing way before everybody else again?
Ooh, this is so fun. The quote that just came to my mind is I think it's attributed to Bill Gates, but it's people overestimate what they can achieve in a year, underestimate what they can achieve in a lifetime, and I think that's actually happening with AI today. And so what's happening is everyone can kind of see the future, the potential of AI, but there are a lot of apps and things being launched today that just aren't quite cutting it. But at the same time, we still want that, that C3PO, right? We still
Hmm.
want that,
flying car?
the
Yeah.
flying car. We want that Iron Man Jarvis vibe, right? And so for me, I think I've been either lucky or good at picking what industries are gonna pop off, so to speak. Picking customer service early on, which has become probably one of the biggest AI industries on the B2B side. The gap I'm seeing today now is actually on the prosumer side. I think everyone thinks about this idea of having your own personal AI assistant, your executive assistant, so to speak. But the problem is right now, a lot of AI is still question answer based. A lot of it is, hey, I'm going to ask a question and get back the result. But when you think about having an AI that, for example, can live across your admin tasks, your email, your calendar, and things like that, that can actually help you get stuff done. Eventually, it'll be things like shopping and finding your doctor's, your next doctor's appointment, whatever. All of that is what we call agentic AI, right? And that's what I started preaching, so to speak, over the last few years, which is AI that has access to tools, can take action in your life, can be proactive. It isn't just you open up the browser screen and you're talking to it and it's giving you an answer back. It's monitoring things going on and letting you know, hey, Gabby, you have an important meeting today that you're running late for. You should probably be leaving now, right? Like all of that, or you want to book your next date with your spouse or your partner or whatever it may be, and it's not only recommending restaurants but it's booking the reservation, right? And so ironically that is exactly what we're building at Espa, right? So had this idea and had this thought that like everyone's going to need this. I need this, and so it's exciting that we just launched Espa, the AI executive assistant for people who are just trying to achieve more. So that's what I'm working on.
Can you talk to a little bit about the use cases specific to some that you might have used even in your personal life?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'd been building Espa in stealth, in beta, private beta for a while. We got tons of our friends and family using it, investors, creators, folks who are just trying to like achieve big things. That's really how I think about it. So for me, building a company from ground zero again,
Hmm.
we use Espa for all of our interviews, right? So anytime a candidate, we're trying to schedule a meeting with a candidate, CC Espa on the thread. Espa handles it all, and it's not just like a one click button thing. It's like you're talking to a human. It's back and forth. It's got my email, my calendar set up. It knows what's going on, all of my context, and then Espa is able to actually communicate with the candidate, lock in a time, put it on my calendar, and boom, and then send me prep, right? The calendars, the contacts, resume, and so to speak. So using it for that, investor meetings, things like that. But then I also use it on the go, like with home life, right? Like so. if I'm driving, I can actually send a voice memo to
Oh, wow.
Espa to schedule
Ah,
on the go.
okay.
Like, hey, I just remembered that I gotta, take out the trash when I get home. Remind me when I get back, right? You can send a voice memo. Another example, my wife and I were walking the other day, and she saw a poster for a concert she wanted to go see. And so she actually took a screenshot of the concert poster and just sent it to Espa. Hey, put this on my calendar and remind me to book it. Right. And so things
Huh.
like that you can use. So scheduling on the go, calendaring, email, and then auto drafting your emails. So Espa will, again, proactively monitor what's going on in your inbox. And then when you get an important email, flag that, tag that, and even draft a reply in your tone and in your voice so that you just got to scan, approve, and hit go in order to breeze through your inbox.
I love that. I love Superhuman, but like, it still takes time to actually go through and monitor and
Yeah.
take care of everything.
And this podcast is brought to you by Gunderson Detmer. For over 30 years, Gunderson Detmer has represented what's next. Built exclusively for the innovation economy, the firm is the #1 law firm in venture capital globally, partnering with leading investors and groundbreaking companies from start to scale. Learn more at gunder.com.
I guess, what does it feel like to be going 0 to 1 again, right? Like, incredible rise with Forethought, raise a ton, scale to a massive team, but now you're building in this like entirely new era. What does that feel like as a builder, as a founder, someone who's been in the AI space for a while? Like, what excites you to go for round 2 at
Oh,
that point?
it's exhilarating. I mean, it's an entrepreneur's illness or something. Like I'm sure they're gonna brand it as that. But I mean, I love building. It's what I've been doing since I was a kid, right? Like it's you take a problem, you see it, and you solve it. Um, so many things are different now. The technology is way better. Like all this, again, all that stuff I dreamed of when we were a kid is just like right here in arm's reach, right? And so that's exciting. Like anything you can think of, you can build, right? With vibe coding, you don't even have to be a coder anymore. If you can dream it, you can achieve it, right? And so I think there's like this really cool era now where the ability to communicate like at the speed of human thought is what's going to create innovation, right? And so I love being in this era right now. And I think businesses are going to be so much faster, right? We've seen this happen in coding assistants, right? Like with Cursor, Cognition, which is one of my portfolio companies as an angel investor, and many others. Like these companies are hitting so much scale, so much faster, which means you can have a leaner team, which means you can go faster. And there's a part of me that like I'm exhilarated by that. The idea to just be back in the ring and do things better, learn from your mistakes, learn from your
Mm.
successes, and then go even faster with round 2. It kind of just randomly, but entrepreneurship reminds me of what I used to call competitive programming.
Ooh,
So
say,
We're
say
gonna
more.
jump into that.
Say more. For anyone who's not heard of competitive
Please.
programming,
Oh
paint
man,
the world for
paint
us.
the world.
And by the way, Deon is in the Hall of Fame of competitive engineering and programming in Canada. He's like, there's like actually a website just of
We'll drop the
competitive
link.
chess.
We'll drop
and
the
No,
link.
engineering.
we're not
He's
gonna drop.
top
We're
100.
not gonna drop the link. We gotta keep that
But
on
like,
the down low.
briefly, what is competitive programming?
Yeah.
Kind of just like paint the picture of that
Paint the
world.
picture. So, I mean, it's super nerdy, which is why I'm like half embarrassed anytime someone mentions it. But you know what? We're on the podcast. We'll get there. But it's like chess or any other kind of like
Like
intellectual
debate and
sport,
stuff.
yeah, or debate, right? Everyone has a rating. You can solve problems. You compete at the competitions, and so in high school, there's the International Olympiad for Informatics, the IOI, for high school kids, and it's basically the Olympics, the Junior Olympics of computer programming. And then in university and college, there's the ICPC, the International Collegiate Programming Contest. And these are probably the two biggest like competitions for programming in the world. And it's basically you're put in a room, you're given a bunch of problems, and it's either individuals in the IOI case or as a team in the ICPC case. And you're just given like 10 really hard problems that's going to take you 5 hours to solve, and you got to write computer programs that can solve it for you.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's super sick. It's like take a Google interview, like leet code problem or whatever, and then just like put that on steroids and make it 10x harder. And that's like one of the problems for the world finals. And so I competed back at University of Waterloo for the University of Waterloo team. We went to the World Finals twice, but in our last year, we were first in Canada, actually, top 3 in North America and 13th in the world out of basically all universities. So
Okay, shout out Waterloo.
shout out
There you go.
UW, you know what I'm saying? But so yeah, super proud of that. But the reason I liken that back to entrepreneurship for me is that that was kind of the formative years for me, where I'm going through university, I'm learning about all of this technology and AI and computers, both in the academic sense, but it was also very real for me in like this competitive sense.
Mm.
This like, how do you put what you've learned to the test, so to speak? You're competing with folks who are just super smart, super geniuses. You gotta not you gotta like put it all together, and it's grit, right? Like it's like one contest is 5 hours. We would do 2 practices a week, so 2 5-hour competitions, and then we would do individual practices, which were 2 hours, and I would probably do one a night. And this is on top of school, right? And so this was like where like I kind of developed that grit and hustle, but it taught me a lot. Like, and in university, I ended up publishing my first paper on AI because somebody had come up with this like interesting AI algorithm, and I noticed that it was very similar to one of the like competition problems I had solved, and so I was like trying to like work through it. Ended up working on it and published a paper. It's actually in um, the Journal for Autonomous Agents, which is like random. I didn't know there was like everyone's talking about agents now, and I like look back and I'm like AMAS, the Autonomous Agent like conference from 2015.
It's not new. It's been
You know
around.
what I'm saying?
It's been around.
And so but my point is like not a lot of undergrads are doing that, but for me it felt like, oh, okay, like if I see a problem and I have the technological background to solve it, I can solve it, and that doesn't scare me. And so that was like kind of that upbringing for me. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's actually an extension of that for me. When you see a problem that you can solve, this time it's on a wider scale, it's a global scale. And it's not just a technology problem, but it's a go-to-market problem, or it's a people problem, or it's a recruiting problem. When you see that, I get excited about that. I'm like, all right, I'm back in the ring. My old mantra used to be every day is contest day. That was
Love
I had a
That's a good
T-shirt.
one.
Game
I
ready.
swear I
Every
had a
day is
T-shirt.
you're all in,
every
all
day
the
is
way.
contest day, I would say. Anyway, and so that was like the environment that we were in. And I will say that team, my team, University of Waterloo team that went to the World Finals, my teammate from that, Vladimir Lubinets, is now my co-founder and CTO
Incredible.
at Espa.
Okay.
So we've been in the ring together, and he was our first engineer back at Forethought as well. So
Makes
we've been in the
sense.
ring together for 15 plus years.
I
At
do
this
want to
point.
talk about talent because
Yeah.
Vanilla Closer says the team you hire is the company you build.
Yes.
And
Wholeheartedly
you've
believe that.
talked about competing with some of the best people in the world. How do you think about talent and convincing and winning them over to potentially work for your company? Because at the end of the day, it does seem like this is like a human. It's so funny we're talking about AI, machines, and all these things getting done without humans, but it seems to be that human capital is still the most important thing.
Yeah.
Specifically when you're building some of these AI labs or AI applications.
I completely agree. Yeah, the human equation is not going away. AI is changing the definition of a software engineer, and it's moving that away from being just a coder. But at the end of the day, for me, software engineering was always about problem solving, right? And so AI is making that bottom layer of coding a lot easier, but you still have to be an amazing problem solver. Now you just have a new tool, which is AI. And so to build an amazing AI company, you still need amazing talent, right? And so for me, I think to answer your question, the first comes from like, it's like a weird, I like to say like a humility confidence balance. All right. Because like what I mean by that is knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses are two sides of the same coin. And you can't just over index on your weaknesses, because then you're never going to focus on your strengths. And you can't just over index on your strengths because you're going to have blind spots. Right. And so here's the thing for me is that, look, I was in the ring with all these, super geniuses. I wouldn't call myself a super genius. But I was in the ring.
I think everybody
I'm
watching
get-
this will call you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get in the ring with them.
we're
Just-
calling
but
you that
I'm
after the
gonna go
pod.
toe to toe.
He's like, I'm a genius.
no. I'm gonna go toe to toe.
Maybe I'm not a super genius.
I'm gonna go
genius.
toe to toe.
That's what's on the back of the T-shirt that says, every day is context day. I'm a genius.
Genius.
Get out of here. I'm gonna go toe to toe. But this is important. No, I mean this like very, very literally. And so like there were so many people, like I saw firsthand the people whose brains were operating on another clock cycle compared to mine. I'm like, this person is just like the smartest person I have ever met. Like I've had like so many people like that, right? And so that's there's a humility that comes from that. Like there are going to be ways in which my brain, like I am not going to be able to compete on that level. But on the flip side, I realize like I have other strengths, right? Like I can be in the ring. I'm a technical guy. I can write the code first, wrote the first versions of any of these products we've built. But the other thing I realize is, look, where I'm not the greatest, literal greatest in the world, I can get in the ring with them, but I'm not the literal greatest in the world. I do have a knack for figuring out where the markets are going to go. I do have a knack for storytelling. I do have a knack for believing in people, finding the right people. I do have a knack for bringing them on board and helping them see that vision.
Mm.
And so that makes me able to say, well, you know what? How am I going to then go and recruit these folks? How am I going to go and bring in the greatest talent in the world? And if this kid here who is this IOI medalist or whatever isn't going to come work for me, he's probably going to go start his own company. Then I'm going to angel invest. That's how I know Scott Wu from Cognition, the CEO of Cognition, and they're probably 100+ million ARR at this point. Is because he was the best in the world, literal. Like I don't, he was like, and he's my boy. We go, we karaoke sometimes, but my point is just like, there's beauty in that, and knowing like, look, for this particular thing, we need the best person in the world, and you just have to keep focusing on that, having a low ego about it. But then, the tactics around how do you bring people in? I think it is about having a clear and compelling vision. And for me, it's always like three things that I tie to that drive me. One is that intellectual curiosity. Is this a problem that is worth going after? Is this a problem that'll make you put down that competition you were going for and go for this other thing? So that intellectual curiosity. Two, is this a market that matters? Is it going to have an impact on millions, if not billions, of people? And then three, am I going to be able to do this with like great people I admire, I respect, I want to have fun with, and I want to win with? If I can have those three things on loop, like that is literally that's my life journey. Like that's what I want to do forever. And I think that resonates with a lot of people. And there may be people it doesn't resonate with. But those are the kinds of people for whom that resonates are the kind of people I want to work with.
Mm.
Right. And so we spend a lot of time doing that and figuring out where are the meaty problems, where are the meaty markets, and let's just build a team together and just have a great culture.
That's incredible. So I love your point, the first one about just like having a compelling vision and like something people can get really excited about, drop kind of everything for. At this point, Espa's doing great. You've hired a phenomenal team, great people. Kind of put us into the future a little bit, right? Like, where's Espa going? What does that vision look like? What does the future look like now that Espa's here? Walk us through that a bit.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I'll give you like the long term, and then I'll give you like the short term for how we get there. In the long term, I kind of see Espa as like your Jarvis, the Jarvis to your Iron Man, right? Everything that you're trying to achieve in your life, you're a founder, you're an investor, you're a small business owner, whatever it is, you're trying to achieve more. You're trying to do a lot of things. Espa is going to be that layer of AI that is ubiquitous, that exists across all of your workflows. So, whether you're in Slack at work, or whether you're texting, you're on the go, or even voice, or on the phone, Espa is there, just like a real executive assistant, right? That the idea is to anchor not in like a productivity tool, not in AI for AI's sake, but in this idea of having a personal assistant or an executive assistant. And the truth is that this is a huge market, like in terms of like the number of people who actually need an executive assistant, but it's actually inaccessible to the average person, right? This idea of having help, of having an executive assistant, is really something that only CEOs and like the top 1%,
Mm.
get access to. And I almost see this the same way Uber evolved, or this, that whole market where, this luxury of having a private driver was something that only the uber rich and the uber wealthy would have access to. And then you have the Ubers and the Lyft take that and then democratize it to literally everyone because of the mobile era on their phone. And I think this idea of having an extra pair of hands is something that most executives can have, but the average person, let's say you're a small business owner, you're running a laundromat, you're a realtor trying to, close houses. You're a founder of a pre-seed, seed, Series A company. You can't really afford yet to hire executive help, or you don't even know what that even means, right? Because most first-time founders don't. Then what do you turn to, right? So Espa is going to be that AI that really does exist across all your workflows and helps you achieve more across all of those things, whether you're talking through voice, through email, through text, through chat, whatever that may mean.
Should we end, or do we want to do one more?
We can do one more question.
All
Yeah.
right, I'll do one more question. We'll cut that last part.
Yeah.
Now, the last thing I want to end on is storytelling, like brand presence, being the face of a company. We recently had a dinner with you that you hosted, and you laid out the blueprint.
Mhm.
He was dropping gems on how you get 1 million. Was it 1 million
It was a
impressions?
million impressions. It was like 1 million impressions annually on my LinkedIn. Yeah.
And just LinkedIn, right?
Just
But
LinkedIn.
But that doesn't even count like you're on CNBC, you're on Bloomberg, you're in the press.
Guys, all over
Like,
Bloomberg,
you're-
Mr. Bloomberg.
You're everywhere. I turn on the TV, there's Deon.
There's
Deon
Deon.
talking about AI.
Dang. Yeah, it's interesting. So going back again to that whole, humility, confidence equation. It was interesting for me to embrace storytelling as a skill, as an arc. You know what I mean? When I first started my first company, I was an engineer, so a lot of investors were just like, "Well, how are you going to sell to enterprises?" You know what I mean? Like, just
Great
Even the
investor.
investor-
great investor voice.
Yeah,
Investor
great
voice one more
investor
time.
So how are you going to sell to enterprises? What?
I know those folks pretty well.
Oh, we're gonna gut that. And
We're actually going to leave that one.
I know.
and so I internalized that, right? I'm like, oh well, I'm an engineer. I must, right? Like I must not know how to sell and recruit. And it took a long time. It actually took years of just doing it to realize, oh dang, I'm actually pretty good at this, right? And that's where you again lean into the confidence, right? And then there will be things I'm not very good at all, and there'll be things that I'm great at, and that is just is what it is. And every founder has that for themselves. And I think knowing yourself in that way is actually a really important journey. And so this idea of being able to, again, see the market, but also see the problem we're trying to solve and see where we uniquely differentiate became part of the storytelling. I started to lean more into that in my last company, Forethought, after we raised our Series B, right? So we raised the round. We were starting to think about, hey, this customer service AI company is something that really could appeal not just to enterprises, but to the end user, to the consumer. We all, again, have experienced bad customer service. And this was right during the pandemic. Zoom, which is again was an enterprise company, was becoming like every household knew it. And they were creating this household name. And so when it comes to brand and storytelling, it's kind of interesting to be able to have this ambition of we may not be there today, but what would the world look like if we were a household name, right? Like, and with Espa, like I think every single human, I think like at least 1 billion people will have the ability to have this Jarvis-like AI across their workflows and across their life, right? And so again, start big, think about that vision, think about where you want to be, but then work backwards to like how do you create a brand around that? How do you create the story, and how do you do that? And it's actually about putting people at the center. It's not about, hey, we're this cool company, whatever, but it's about thinking about that the person, where they're going to be and how they're living every single day, and how to make them the hero of the story. And it's also about being a person yourself. So again, with my last company, when we raised that Series B and we were thinking about that announcement and how to do press around it, this was also right after George Floyd died, right? And so this was like a point where, as a Black CEO in tech, we were asking questions about how do I want my voice to make an impact, right, across these industries, right? And so there was a whole lot of ingredients there that really led to me coming to like embrace this whole like, Deon, you got to tell your own personal story as part of this. And so we made that. We thought about, how does my personal story, a lot of this stuff we're talking about, where how did you even get into AI? And again, AI wasn't even sexy back then, right? Like it was just
Definitely
there were AI companies. But that became part of the story, right? And so it became about brand storytelling, it became about consumer storytelling, and it became about my storytelling, like just as a human. And it was awkward as heck at first to embrace that. Like it felt vain, almost like self-centered to be like, all right, I'm, part of the brand, but like, can we talk about the company? It's like it was always weird. I went through a lot of founder therapy, I mean, executive coaching, like, to come to terms with
Fans
all
of
this.
both for
Yeah,
everybody.
basically. Again, it's that executive support you don't realize you have
That's true.
as a first-time founder. Um, but then we started rolling with that and really telling stories, and being authentic with the stories, telling my personal story, telling the story of the end user who would be using the technology, writing content and blogging about the journey. And so eventually I was posting on LinkedIn about 3 times a week. And it was, it wasn't even always about customer service. Sometimes it was about customer service, sometimes it was about AI, and sometimes it was about being an executive at a company and scaling.
Mm.
Right. And I think the same is really going to be true today with Espa. We're putting, the founder plus, the owner operator, the solopreneur, the investor, the realtor, the person who's trying to do big things at the center of our brand and at the center of our story, because they're the ones who are trying to achieve stuff. All we are is help. Like we're here to support. We're executive support, right? We're problem solvers on behalf of you guys. And so the more we can tell those stories of people trying to do more, achieve more, and hey, by the way, they're using Espa to do it, that's going to be where our brand is focused. That's where we want to live and exist and tell that story. I'm going to, continue using Espa for myself. Hopefully everyone who's listening to this podcast, go sign up for Espa, www.espa.ai. We'll probably have an invite code
The show
for
notes.
Definitely.
in the
Definitely.
show notes. But if you're listening to this podcast, it's probably because you're trying to achieve big things, right? And putting, all of the things you're trying to do at the center. And you probably have customers, you probably have end users, you probably have work, family life, that side hustle you're trying to do, all of those things. You just want to achieve more, and we're here to help you do that. We are executive support for the people trying to achieve more.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much for being here, sharing your story, the Espa story, but also what Espa is going to mean and be for people in the world. So we're super pumped to be part of that journey. We will definitely have the link in the comments and then, a promo code, I'm sure, as well. But
Yes.
thanks again for joining the pod.
Thank you for joining.
This is really
Let's
awesome.
go. Thank you so much for having me.